discipline that is rooted in shame, fear, self-hatred, energy loss is not only regressive, but also outdated and keeping you stuck in the child's archetype of discipline versus the alternative approach, which is the king archetype, one that provides momentum, clarity, sovereignty, and structure. And to be able to actually notice the difference in your own personal life, it's going to account for this one major piece of insight that absolutely changed everything for me. What gets us to be disciplined oftentimes is through shame. I've seen this time and time again from the clients that I work with and in my own personal experience. It is a very powerful emotion to actually get things moving, for a short period of time, maybe even for a long period of time. But it is absolutely corrosive. But what it really does, it creates this illusion of what I call moral accounting. So what is the logic behind it? So the first thing is we believe that if we do a bad thing, so a mistake, that we are now in debt. And to balance the books, you're going to have to experience pain. And pain can be elicited through self-judgment, criticism, rumination. And now the problem with it is that pain alone is not obviously going to fix the problem. And ruminating on, let's say, an example of a $10,000 loss in your business, ruminating on it for 3 days straight will not change anything. In fact, the only thing that will happen is you've just lost energy, emotional energy, psychic energy, spiritual energy. Everything is depleted. And for the most part, we know this. We know that ruminating on it is not going to change anything, but I'll get into why that happens later. Then we get into the economic angle, which is shame is treated like a currency. That if we believe, if we self-loathe long enough, we're buying back that mistake, buying back our innocence. We all within us have the tyrant. As the Freudian lovers out there, the superego. What is the superego? Which, by the way, I have it represented by Sauron's eye. I usually like to think of it that way, as this ever-present, judgmental, critical presence that's just always watching every step you make to make sure if you do blunder, it's right there to let you know. And the idea behind it is the inner tyrant, the superego, the internalized voice of authority, your father, teacher, God, that demands perfection. If you really think about it, whenever you have those moments where you are really self-hating, ruminating, what does that voice sound like? What does the images of your mind look like? Does it remind you of anything? For the most part, anytime I've had this conversation, it always revolves back to, I feel like the superego within me sounds a lot like my father, or sounds a lot like my mother, or this teacher that I had growing up that just had such an imprint on me and has consistently been with me no matter where I go, even though I haven't seen her in like 30 years. It is always related to the central authority we've had in our life. And what we do is we take that authority, we impose it on ourselves to give guardrails. And you know what? It is important. It's good to give yourself some guardrails, something to make sure that you do have a level of standard. But when this authority becomes bigger than you, which is why I call the child archetype of discipline, you become now the child to this parental figure that you say, oh, please, is it okay? Like, did I do the right thing? I'm sorry I messed up. Just give me another chance. I can make it right. Even though you may not be pleading, or maybe you are, I don't know. But the simple dynamic going back and forth is of the type that you're asking for permission to just finally be relieved of your pain. And the cycle, if you notice, looks a lot like this. You make a mistake. Then all of a sudden the tyrant kicks into your mind. Once that happens, then the moral debt starts to accumulate and you got to pay this back. And then once you pay it back, you feel like you think you're okay, but then you enter into the world of hesitation. And now everything feels hesitant to you because you worry about making a mistake. You ever notice that if you were going to give a presentation, or maybe you're going to go compete in a sporting event, that you are constantly worried about messing up, missing your lines, having to start over. And all the hesitancy does what? Makes you make a mistake, which then and you can see how all this circles. Preservationist versus expansionist state of mind. The preservationist is, if I make a mistake, then this is going to suck, then I'm going to have to sit and ruminate on it. The expansionist will say, well, failure is not really a big deal because it's outside of me. It's not a reflection of who I am. It's just a reflection. I'm just not good at what I'm doing yet. And so they will continue to seek success. They will almost like not seek out failure, but just see it as actual signals. It is a component of a signal. It tells you what you're doing wrong and which way you got to go. And when you get too locked in the state of shame, then you want to preserve, you just want to hold on to and keep. And eventually over time, this eats itself. You become more paralyzed, you can't move or do anything. Now, of course, there's a balance to it. And are you going to feel emotional when you lose things? Of course you are. Like, you're a human being. I'm not saying you're not going to feel nothing. And the goal isn't to feel nothing. The goal is to make sure that it doesn't run wild. A healthy dose is important. If you lost something and you're feeling upset about it, maybe you could have put in more hours. Maybe you could have not stayed up so late watching Netflix when you could have gone to bed early and woke up in the morning, gone to the gym. You use that temporary pain to say, okay, I got to make these tweaks. And you cut loose and you move forward. But you, the deepest self, is the one in full control, because you are. It's just we have capitulated and given the superego all the reins. If you want a set of tools that can actually help you navigate this, diving into that inner world, understanding your patterns and how things are going, how have you viewed discipline, and how has it been so corrosive to you, I got a free PDF down below. It's a self-sabotage deconstruction guide, and it gives you a ton of information, a ton of value that's going to really make a massive difference. And then, of course, I have one spot available for this pilot program. It's a free guidance session where I will give you in exchange, where we will put it online, inspire others. You can tell your story, because there's so many people out there who are experiencing the exact same thing, but just need a voice. Again, link down below. Thank you very much. I'll see you on the next one.